Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Aleph and we will be learning Mirtz Hashem today, Daf Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. We begin on Kuf Aleph Amud Beis with the new Siman. We're continuing to learn Hilchos Krias Shema. We pick up with the new Siman Samach Zayin, Din Safik Im Kara Krias Shema Uboy Sif Echad. The halacha regarding whether, if in a case where you have a suffix, whether or not you said Krias Shema. Uboy Sif Echad, and we have one sif here, one very short sif in the Shulchan Aruch, but quite a bit of Mishnah Berurah. So let's get started here in Kaf Aleph Amud Beis. Says the Makaber Sif Aleph. Safik Im Kara Krias Shema. If one has a suffix, he has a doubt whether or not he actually recited Krias Shema. Chayzer v'korei. He has to go back and say Krias Shema. Now, that doesn't sound like such a tremendous chiddush, because we know that at least a certain amount of Krias Shema, exactly which part of Krias Shema is b'daraisa and which part is b'darabanan, is a machlokes rishonim. But we know that there is a chiyuv daraisa to say Krias Shema. So if you have a suffix whether or not you said Krias Shema, that's a suffix daraisa. Suffix daraisa l'chumra. So certainly if you have a suffix whether or not you said Krias Shema, you have to go back and say Krias Shema. Exactly how much of it you have to say, like we said, that's a subject of a machlokes rishonim. But now, says the Mechaber, not only chayzer v'korei, not only should you go back and make sure to say Krias Shema, u'mevarech lefaneha u'la'achareha, you also are going to recite the birchas Krias Shema. So it's late in the morning, and you're not sure. Did I daven when I davened this morning? What happened? It sounds very strange to have such a suffix, but somehow somebody has a suffix, he doesn't know. Did he say Krias Shema? Did he not say Krias Shema? So the halacha is he has to say Krias Shema and he has to say Birchas Krias Shema. Now Birchas Krias Shema are D'Rabbanan, so we'll have to see why is it that we took suffix. You have to say Birchas Krias Shema. Continues the Mechaber in the top line of Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. Avalim Yodea Shekira'a. But if a person is certain that he did say Krias Shema, but he's besupik whether or not he said the birchos Krias Shema, then says the Mechaber Eino Chayzer U'Mavarech, he should not go recite the birchos Krias Shema because the birchos Krias Shema D'Rabbanan. So the piece that's a little bit funny over here, again, what we're saying is like this. If somebody has a suffix whether or not he said Krias Shema, we understand he has to say Krias Shema. It's suffix daraisa l'chumra. The Mechaber says not only does he have to make sure to recite Krias Shema, he has to make sure to recite Birchos Krias Shema, even though the brachas of Krias Shema are only D'Rabbanan. On the other hand, if somebody knows for a fact that he covered the chiyuv daraisa, he knows that he said Krias Shema, and his suffix is only on the Birchos Krias Shema, then he does not say Birchas Krias Shema. Now let's dive into the Mishnah Berurah here, Kaf Aleph Amud Beis. Mishnah Berurah is Kan Aleph Krias Shema. So the way the Mishnah Berurah set up this siman, unless I'm missing something, it's a bit broken up, because in Ois Katan Aleph over here, the Mishnah Berurah is really going to discuss, he's going to point out that it's strange that we say the Birchas Krias Shema mitach suffix. But in Ois Katan Aleph, he's not really going to answer the question of why it in fact is so that we do say the Birchas Krias Shema. That's not going to come until Kuf Beis Amud Aleph all the way down in Ois Katan Daled. Why the Chavetz Chaim set it up this way, I'm not 100% sure. But let's see Mishnah Berurah is Katan Aleph over here. It says the Chavetz Chaim, the Mechaber just said, we have a suffix whether or not you said Krias Shema, you have to say Krias Shema, and you also recite the brachas. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ubisha'ar mitzvahs daraisa, how about by other mitzvahs asay midaraisa? Heicha shemechuyev lasay saisa misveika, where we have a case where you're mechuyev to do a mitzvah asay midaraisa out of a suffix. Pasak le'el b'siman yud zayin sif beis. He says, the Mechaber paskind earlier in Siman Yud Zayin Sif Beis, le'inyan tumtum, in the case of a tumtum, Af dechayiv b'tzitzitz, a tumtum is suffix zachar, suffix nekeva. A zachar is chayiv in tzitzitz. A nekeva is not chayiv in tzitzitz. So we paskin that a tumtum, mitoich suffix, is chayiv in tzitzitz. Tzitzitz is a daraisa. The tumtum is a suffix. So sveika daraisa l'chumra. If he wears a beged with the al kanfis, he's chayiv in tzitzitz. B'Yaredei Reish Samachei, in Yaredei Reish Samachei Sif Gimel, in Hilchas Bris Mila, Le'inyan Mila ba'androgynous. We have an androgynous. An androgynous is somebody who has the Simanim, both of a Zachar and a Nekeva. And we paskin over there that an androgynous is chayiv to undergo a Bris Mila. Now again, that's only mitach suffix. We have a suffix whether or not he's a Zachar. So there's a suffix whether or not he's a chiyuv of bris milah, but it's a sveika daraisa, so sveika daraisa l'chumra, and we paskin he needs a bris milah. V'chein kol ki hai gavni, and so too by any other issues of this type, where we have a mitzvah say daraisa, and we're being mechayiv somebody to be mekayim the mitzvah mitach suffix, we paskin over there to lo yavarach ala mitzvah, that you don't make the bracha. So again, you have a tumtum who's wearing a beged of dal kanfais, he has to put on tzitzits, but he's not going to make a bracha on the tzitzits. The androgynous, you're going to do a bris milah, but there's going to be no bracha on the milah. And the rationale is very simple, says the Chavetz Chaim. Ki ha-bracha is heim derabanan, because bracha is only a chiv derabanan, usveika lekula. And by a derabanan, you say sveika derabanan lekula. Okay, what's the point of the Chavetz Chaim? The Chavetz Chaim is pointing out what seems to be a halachic inconsistency. In these cases of an androgynous getting a bris milah mitach suffix, it's a daraisa, so he needs the bris milah, but there's no bracha because the bracha is only the rabbanon. By a tumtum putting on tzitzits, he's chayiv in tzitzits mitach suffix, sveika daraisa l'chumra, but he doesn't make a bracha because that's a drabanan, sveika darabanan l'kula. Yet over here by Krias Shema, we're saying a person has a suffix whether or not he said Krias Shema. So we're mechayiv him to say Krias Shema because sveika daraisa l'chumra, but we're also mechayiv him to say Birchas Krias Shema. What's going on? Well, that seems to be inconsistent. However, says the Chavetz Chaim, yesh paiskim, there are paiskim, shemechalkin bein heicha sha'asafik hu mechuyev klal b'ha mitzvah, kigoyin ahi shekasavnu, ubein heicha shemechuyev ela she'eni yadeya im osa ha-mitzvah. Says the Chavetz Chaim, there are paiskim that want to make the following chiluk. They say is like this. The two cases where the Mishnah Berurah says, where we paskin, that you don't make a bracha, so you have the tumtum who's putting on tzitzits. Over there, what's the suffix? The suffix is, we don't know if this person has a chiyuv tzitzits at all. This tumtum might actually be in a keva. If he's in a keva, he has no chiyuv of tzitzits at all. So too by the androgynous and bris milah. The androgynous might be in a keva. If he's in a keva, he certainly has no chiyuv of bris milah. So again, the suffix in the daraisa is, it could be that this person has no chiyuv whatsoever. He's not a bar chiyuva. He's not somebody that's capable of having a chiyuv of milah or a chiyuv of tzitzis. In that case, we say sveika daraisa l'chumra, and he has to be mekayim the mitzvah. So the tumtum has to put on the tzitzis, the androgynous needs a bris milah, but no bracha. Now, our suffix over here by Krias Shema is a different suffix. We know that this person is a bar chiyuva of Krias Shema. We know for sure that the chiyuv mitzvah saseh of Krias Shema applies to this person. The suffix is that he might have already been mekayim it. We don't know. Maybe he said it already. If he said it already, he was already mekayim the chiyuv. So he no longer has a chiyuv. In that case, these poskim say, then you have to be mekayim the mitzvah, mitach suffix, and you also make a bracha, mitach suffix. And the Pri Megadim explains why this difference matters. Pri Megadim seems to say like this. He says, in the case of the person who has a suffix whether or not he said Krias Shema, that person is definitely a bar chiyuva. When he woke up this morning, he had a chiyuv to say Krias Shema. The suffix is, maybe he already did it. But the Chazaka says that he did not, right? Chazaka usually says that a situation remains the way it was unless we know that something happened to change the situation. So when this person woke up this morning, he had a chiyuv daraisa to say Krias Shema. We don't know that anything changed. He has a suffix whether or not he said it. So we don't know if he said Krias Shema. So Chazaka tells us to assume that he did not say Krias Shema. All right? If he didn't say Krias Shema, he has to say Krias Shema and he has to make the brachas as well. Masha'en Kain, by the tumtum who's putting on tzitzits, there's no Chazaka that he has a chiyuv to put on tzitzits. We don't know if he's a bar chiyuv at all. Since we don't know if he's a bar chiyuv at all, so the daraisa putting on tzitzis he has to do. But the bracha that's only the Rabbanon, he does not have to do. So the Mishnah Berurah introduces to us to this chilik between these cases. And he says, Ye ach yesh paiskim, shabachalkin ben hecha shasafik imhu mechuyev klal b'hamitzvah, kigon yishik asavdu, like the tumtum and tzitzis, the androgynous in Mila, ubein hecha shemechuyev, or let's say by Krias Shema, where we know he's mechuyev, ela she'eni yadayim asa mitzvah, baby, he did it already. The oz, in the latter case, tzarich levarach aleh gamkein. Now, ulefizeh, if you're maskim to make this chilik in din, ulefizeh, according to this, so let's extend this to another case. Luliv oy shayfer b'yom rishon. You have the chiyuv of Daled Minim on the first day of Sukkot, or the chiyuv Teir Shofar on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. Heicha de Besafkalei Kfar Asa Mitzvah Uchai Gavna. Let's say it's the first day of Sukkot, Lulav is a Daraisa, and this person is Mesufik. I don't remember if I took Daled Minim or not. Tzarech La'asoisa Bevracha. According to this chilik that we're making, so again, we would say, we know that this person is a Bar Chiyuva of Daled Minim. So when he woke up this morning, he was zikach chayiv in Daled Minim. The shail is, was he mekayim in the mitzvah already? So since we know he's a bar chiyuva, there's a chazaka that he has the chiyuv. We don't know that he was mekayim the chiyuv, so he's a chiyuv to do it, and he would make a bracha. However, it says the Chavetz Chaim, the cause of a pri begodim, to the Kesev Mishnah b'shem Rashba, from the Kesev Mishnah writing in the name of the Rashba, v'chein mimagen Avraham b'shem Rivash, and from the Magen Avraham writing in the name of the Rivash, L'kaman, Siman Tavkov Pehei Ois Gimel, in Hilchos Daled Minim, Muchach, it's clear, the Loisvira Lahu L'chilik Zeh. Comes out from the Pri Begadim that the Kesev Mishnah, the Rashba, the Magen Avraham in the name of the Rivash, they weren't maskim to this chilik in din, Elotamid B'li Bracha. Rather, they say that whenever you're being Mekayim a mitzvah say daraisa mitach safik, you're Mekayim the mitzvah, but you do not make a bracha. Which leaves us over here by Krias Shema, where we have to explain why is it that by Krias Shema, Chayzer v'kari Krias Shema, the Mechaber Paskins mitach safik, you have to say Krias Shema, and you have to make the brachas. We don't have the reason why yet. Mishnah Berurah didn't give us the reason. V'gam me'agra b'simen zeh muchach, and Chavetz Chaim says that from the gra in this siman, it's also clear that he doesn't agree to this chilik in din, and he also holds that whenever you mekayim a mitzvah seimin daraisa mitach safik, you have to be mekayim the mitzvah because sveka daraisa l'chumra, but you don't make a bracha because sveka d'rabbana l'kula. Now the Chavetz Chaim just mentions a different type of suffix. Let's say it's the first day of Sukkot, or it's the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and you didn't have Daled Minim, and they bring you Daled Minim Ben Hashmashas going into day 2. So now Ben Hashmashas is suffix Yom, suffix Laila. If it's still Yom, so then it's day 1, and you have a Chiyuv Daraisa. If it's Laila, then it's day 2, and then you only have a Chiyuv D'Rabbanan. Says the Chavetz Chaim, then everybody would say that you take the Daled Minim or you listen to the shofar but without a bracha. Because again, now the suffix is we don't know if there's a chiyuv mitzvah at all. Maybe it's Ben Hashmashas, maybe it's Laila. If it's Laila, it's day 2. There's no chiyuv at all. At least no chiyuv daraisa. So then you would not make a bracha. Now again, the Mishnah Berurah still has not answered to us. So why taka? Why is it that by Krias Shema, when you're saying Krias Shema mitoch suffix, why is it that you make the bracha? So we're not going to see that until Ois Katan Dalet. Now, Ois Katan Beis. Chayzer v'koyrei hatam. The reason why you have to say Krias Shema is the Kaibel on Krias Shema Daraisa, because we paskin that at least some part of Krias Shema, whether it's the first pasuk or the first parsha or the first two parshas, but some part of Krias Shema Zikha Daraisa. Kaloymar, the hadik sividi barta ba mishiftecha beveisecha uvelechtecha vaderech. That pasuk in Krias Shema, Koya Parsha Zu Gufa. It's referring to the parsha in which it is written. Shechayiv l'darba b'oi b'shash chiva v'amida. When the Torah says v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veisecha v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shachpecha u'v'kumecha, what's the object of bam? V'dibarta bam, and you should speak in them. It's the parshas of Krias Shema. So midaraisa, you have a chiyuv to say Krias Shema b'shachpecha u'v'kumecha. Ulefikachim destapikim kara olav. So if you have a suffix whether or not you will makayim the chiyuv daraisa, chayiv lachzav v'likrois k'chol sveika daraisa. So you have a chiyuv to go back and say Krias Shema like any suffix daraisa. Suffix daraisa l'chumra. Ois Katan Gimel. Then the Mechaber said, so you have a suffix, you're going to say Krias Shema, and you're going to chayze v'koyrei u'mevarech lefanei ulachreya, and you're going to recite Birchas Krias Shema as well. Okay. Says the Chavetz Chaim, l'chayra, kol zeh dafka b'shaloi avazman Krias Shema. This halacha is true if you did not yet miss Seif Zman Krias Shema. Aval ba'avar zman shel shol shois, but if you missed Seif Zman Krias Shema, shuv eina mevarech loy lefanei v'loy la'achareya mach mesafik, now you're no longer going to say the brachas misafik. Why? Desu havelei sveika d'Rabbanan. What does he mean? What he means is like this. If you have a suffix whether or not you said Krias Shema, so while it's still during Zman Krias Shema, you still could be Mekayim the mitzvah say Daraisa. So it's a suffix Daraisa, Sveik Daraisa l'chumra. But if it's already past Zman Krias Shema, even if you say Krias Shema now, you can't be Mekayim the mitzvah say Daraisa. You missed the Zman. The Zman is over. So now there's no Sveika Daraisa. What's the suffix daraisa? If you said Krias Shema, so Baruch Hashem, you were mekayim the mitzvah. If you didn't say Krias Shema, it's too late. You blew it. Now, remember what we learned. Even after Zman Krias Shema, you're supposed to say Krias Shema with the brachas, and you get the schar kikayrei b'Torah. You get schar like somebody who's saying psukim. But between Seif Zman Krias Shema, at the end of the third hour of the day, for that hour, between the end of the third hour of the day and the end of the fourth hour of the day, even though it's after Zman Krias Shema, so by saying Zman Krias Shema, you're not mekayim the mitzvah say daraisa of Krias Shema, but you still have to say Krias Shema, and you still have to say the brachas. Why? Because the Zman for the brachas isn't over until Zman Tefillah. The Zman for the brachas isn't over until the end of the fourth hour. And since you're going to say the brachas, you're going to say Krias Shema, because it's tefillah, the brachas are tefillah, and ein oimdim b'tefillah ela b'tech divrei Torah, and that's the Krias Shema. But now it's only a sveika d'Rabbanan, because the chiyuv to say the brachas is not a chiyuv d'Oraisa. The chiyuv to say the brachas is only chiyuv d'Rabbanan. So again, what he's saying is like this. If you have a suffix, whether or not you said Krias Shema, and you're holding before Seif Zman Krias Shema, so now you have a suffix daraisa. So you have to say Krias Shema, and you're going to say the brachas also. If you missed Zman Krias Shema, but it's still before Zman Tefillah, so then you still have to say the brachas. And you're still going to say Krias Shema together with the brachas. But now it's only a darabanan, not a daraisa. So let's see it inside. What he said is like this. L'chayra calls that dafka b'shaloi avas Zman Krias Shema. This is only true if it's still before Seif Zman Krias Shema. Aval ba'avar zman shel shalosh shois, but if it's already the end of the third hour of the day, so you missed the boat, you missed Seif Zman Krias Shema, shuv eina mevarech loy lefanei v'loy la'achareha mach masafik. Now you're not going to say not Krias Shema and not Birchas Krias Shema mitoch safik. Why? The su havelei sveika d'Rabbanan. Because now the only chiyuv that's left for you is the chiyuv to say the brachas. And that's a d'Rabbanan. So sveika d'Rabbanan l'kula. So you're not going to say anything. But, says the Mishnah Berurah, he started this ice cotton by saying, l'chayra. It would seem that would be the halacha. But, says the Chavetz Chaim, no. I will say, no, this is wrong. Why? Because there's another chiyuv that we still have to cover, and that's the chiyuv daraisa of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. And Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, you're mekayim in two ways. One is, Ani Hashem Elokecha v'sharitzeis eschem Mitzrayim liyos lachem le'lekim. The other way is the last bracha of Birchas Krias Shema, the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv, with Ezra Savaiseinu Atu Me'olam Magei Ne'Moshiach. That paragraph discusses Yitzias Mitzrayim, Makis Bechoros. So those are the two ways, really, that you mekayim the mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. So we have to take that into consideration too. So says the Chavetz Chaim, I will say, Einoi. The Zman Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim nimshach achar kach gam kein. Because the Zman of the Chiyuv Daraisa of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, that runs the whole day. So there's a Chiyuv Daraisa that extends after Zman Krias Shema, after Zman Tefillah. There's still another Chiyuv Daraisa. The Chiyuv Daraisa of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. Ukemoisha Kosev Amagan Avram L'Kamon B'Sifayin Sivkot Hey. In Cain, who Chayav Adayin Al Kol Ponim Beberkas Emes V'Yatziv Ad Sharavias. So you thought in the beginning of this paragraph, in the beginning of this Ois Katan, we thought that after Zman Krias Shema, there's no longer a Chiyuv Daraisa, but there is. During the fourth hour, from the end of Zman Krias Shema until the end of Zman Tefillah, there's still a Chiyuv Daraisa of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim with the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv. Ad Sharavias U'Kedolei El B'Simon Ches. Now, how about after the fourth hour? After Zman Tefillah, so fine. So you missed Zman Krias Shema. You missed Zman Tefillah. Zman Tefillah means you missed also the window of opportunity, the Zman of Birchas Krias Shema. That ended with Zman Tefillah. But you still have a mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. So what's going to be with that? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Umikan v'hala lo yitiknu al zeh bracha. Yes, you still have to be mekayim the mitzvah say of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, but no longer with the bracha of Emes V'Yatziv. The bracha of Emes V'Yatziv was only niskan until the end of Zman Tefillah, and you missed that already. So what should you do? Aval yomer machmas savik zeh is a pasuk shel Yitzias Mitzrayim. So you'll have to mention a pasuk that has to do with Yitzias Mitzrayim, and that's how you'll be mekayim Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. And he brings that down from the Shagas Aryeh Siman Yud Ayin Sham. Isa bebrachas taf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. The Gemara says in brachas taf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Shem Amar Halacha Shemuzka Ba Yitzias Mitzrayim Yatsi Yidei Mitzvah Sei Shala Zechira. Even if you mention a halacha that has to do with Yitzias Mitzrayim, you're mekayim the Mitzvah Sei Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. The Kosev Amagan Avram. The Nira Li, the Magen Avram says it would appear to him, the Cholshkedim Amar Shiras Hayom de Yotza. You could definitely be Yotza Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim by saying Oz Yoshir and talking about the nace of Krias Yamsov. But V'chasam Sofer Polagazeh, Chasam Sofer disagrees. The Bekrot Siv Laman Tizkar Yom Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim Kol Yomei Chayecha. The pasuk for which we learn that there's a chiyuv asay daraisa of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim, that comes from the pasuk that says Laman Tizkar Yom Tzeischa Me'eretz Mitzrayim. You have to mention the day that you went out of Eretz Mitzrayim. V'loi daima ma sheyizkar shavar hayom. It's true that Krias Yamsov has to do with Yitzias Mitzrayim, but that's not talking about the nace of leaving Mitzrayim. That's a different nace, the nace of Krias Yamsov. V'hiskimimai hagon Rabbi Kiva Eger b'chidush avayin sham. V'em yoytze yidei azchira b'hirher. Could you be yoytze Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim by thinking about it? Says the Chavetz Chaim, Ayin beber heita b'sheva beis Yaakov u'b'pri begodim mistapik pozeh u'b'shagizai simin yud gimel herech lo yichiach mishas u'masik de'ena yoytze yidei chayva b'hirher, that you cannot be yoytze the chiyuv of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim just with hirher, just with thought. Upashit b'Gemara the Gamba Laila Tzarich Lahaski Yitzias Mitzrayim. We have to remember in this context that there's also a chiyuv daraisa to be maskir Yitzias Mitzrayim at night. V'ayin b'prima gadim the mistapikim hu daraisa d'rabanan. V'nafkimina le'inyan tzveika ayin sham. The nafkimina will be if you have a suffix whether or not you did it. If it's a daraisa, you have to go l'chumra. If it's d'rabanan, you can go l'kula. Ub'shagisai yisim l'ches kasa b'hedya d'hu daraisa. V'chayiv l'haskir b'zman shu l'ayla v'adai v'loi koidem. You have to be mekayim the mitzvah of Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim when it's vadai laila, not earlier. That's what you have to say sekachavim. V'alkenim hisker ben hashmashas. If you mention Yitzias Mitzrayim during ben hashmashas, kigoyin she'ispal kodim say sekachavim lo yasi yidei chavasei. The ben hashmashas sveika hu sveika daraisa l'chumra. V'chein mashbe mirambam perak aleph b'ilchus Krias Shema du daraisa u'kumasha kasav v'pribagad the ba'atzvay. Okay, so now finally we come up to Eis Katan Daled, and the great unanswered question, we've spoken around it, and we've spoken over it and under it, but the unanswered question is still, why is it that if you have a suffix, whether or not you said Krias Shema, the Mechaber says you have to say Krias Shema, that's fine, Sveika D'Oraisa L'Chumra, but you also have to recite the brachas. Why? The brachas L'Chumra, Ad Rabbanan, Sveika D'Rabbanan L'Kula. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Daled. Afal gav the harbe paiskim servant. First, he tackles a different question. Afal gav the harbe paiskim servant the parsha rishayna hu midaraisa v'hashniya hu midarabanan. Even though there are those paiskim that say that from Shema to uvish arecha, that's daraisa. But v'hayim shemaya, the second parsha of Krias Shema, that they hold already is a darabanan, and vayomer, the third parsha, is also darabanan. V'yesh ben ha-paiskim sheservin the rak pasuk rishon hu midaraisa, and then there are other paiskim who are even more mekel, and they hold that it's only the first pasuk Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad that's daraisa, and everything else is a drabanan. So why are we saying flat out over here that if you have a suffix, whether or not you said Krias Shema, you have to repeat all three parshas of Krias Shema b'toy suffix because Sveika D'Oraisa L'Chumra? Who says it's a Sveika D'Oraisa? Maybe the only daraisa is on the first pasuk, or maybe it's only on the first parsha. So again, v'yesh ben ha-paiskim shesayvrim derak pasuk rishon hu b'daraisa, v'choshkin ha-brachas to l'kuli alma hu d'rabanan, but the birchas Krias Shema for sure are only d'rabanan. Brachas are always only d'rabanan, except for benching is a daraisa, because the Torah maybe is a daraisa, but all other brachas are d'rabanan. The suffix d'rabanan ain't a chayzer, and suffix d'rabanan l'kula. So why would we be repeating the birchas Krias Shema if it suffix if it's only d'rabanan? Says the Chavetz Chaim something fascinating. Yesh loymar. What we have to say is kach hoisa hatakana. This was the takanas chazal of birchas Krias Shema. Shekol zman shekoirin. Whenever you have to say Krias Shema, chayv likrois kekar atakana ubeberchaisa. Part and parcel of the takana of birchas Krias Shema was that whenever the halacha requires you to say Krias Shema, even if you're only saying Krias Shema misafik, but you're saying Krias Shema, whenever the halacha requires you to say Krias Shema, you have to say it together with the brachas. I'm only saying Krias Shema because it's Savik D'Oraisa L'Chumra, and the brachas are Savik D'Rabbanan, I should go L'Kula. No. Once the halacha determines that you're mechuyev to say Krias Shema because Sveika D'Oraisa L'Chumra, now you have to accompany it with the brachas because that's the takana. The takana is you say Krias Shema, you say the brachas. Im loy b'makom she'tiru b'ferish. Unless, except for a case where Chazal Beferish said that you should not say the brachas. Kigana hidla kaman simin kovav siv beis bahaga ayin sham, where it's talking about a rebbe that's teaching Torah, and we say he has to be mafsik to say the first pasuk of Krias Shema, but he doesn't have to say the brachas. V'lechaira says the Chavetz Chaim im yodea she'amar pasuk rishon and parsha rishona. Let's say somebody knows for sure that he said the first pasuk of Krias Shema, or he knows for sure that he said the first parsha of Krias Shema, but he has a suffix if he said the rest. L'chayra, says the Chavetz Chaim, you would think, ain't tzarich lachzor v'likros. You would think, if a person knows for sure that he said the first pasuk, so why does he have to go ahead and repeat it? If he knows he said the first parsha, why does he have to go ahead and repeat it? Miyu b'simin tzarich dal, siv gimel v'dal, mashmash tzarich lachzor. V'tzarich loymar demei kara kain tikdu sheyaksar. That again, this was part of the takana. That even though you know you covered the part that's midaraisa, you didn't say the whole thing, you got to say the whole Krias Shema. How about if the suffix only extends to the third parsha of Vayomer, which everybody agrees is Drabanan? The gam emes v'yatziv, and the bracha of emes v'yatziv, tzarich lachzor l'kuli alma, you zicha have to repeat it. Why? Because you're right, it's a Drabanan in the context of Hilchos Krias Shema, but it's a Daraisa as far as Yitzias Mitzrayim. The Yitzias Mitzrayim chayav and lahaskim Daraisa, and that's the parsha of Vayomer and the bracha of emes v'yatziv. Ach yesh teis b'zeh, the yesh ayimrim the Yomer parshas tzitzis v'gam emes v'yatziv, the kula chada milsi. There are some that say that since you have a suffix whether or not you said the third parsha, so you have a suffix whether or not you are maskir Yitzias Mitzrayim, so you say the third parsha and the bracha of emes v'yatziv because that's the way it's done. The yesh ayimrim, but there are those that say the Yomer rak parshas tzitzis, that you should just say Vayomer. V'yikayim bazeh, Mr. Daraisa shal schiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. V'emes v'yatziv ain't tzarich loymar, and that day you won't say the bracha of emes v'yatziv. V'chein hiskim hashagas arya. Because of it, dem nazal suffix zeh be'erev. If you have a suffix at night, she'einu yedei amar parshas tzitzis. At night, somebody by Ma'ariv, he doesn't know did he say Vayomer and did he say emes v'emuna or not. Chayzer v'omer emes v'emuna. He should say emes ve'emuna, ve'ein tzarich lachzor v'likros parshas tzitzis misafik. Why? Because the parsha of tzitzis at night is not such a chiyuv, because night is not as man tzitzis. Ve'bari lo shekara kol shlosh parshas. Let's say somebody is sure that he said all three parshas of Krias Shema. Ve'ein masupik lo yela b'emes v'yatziv. His only suffix is whether or not you say the bracha of emes v'yatziv. Shachris. Or if he said emes v'emuna at night. Tarvayu chadina she'ein tzarich lachzor v'loymer misafik. You don't say the brachas misafik if you know for sure you said Krias Shema. Tekevin she'amar parshas tzitzis, because now you don't even have a problem of the chiyuv of zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim. If you know for sure that you said all three parshas of Krias Shema, so you were yotzei zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim with the parsha of Vayomer. The Kevin Cha'amar Parshas Tzitzis, L'Kol Yalma Bracha Siman D'Rabbanan, Shekvar Nizkar Yitzias Mitzrayim B'Parshas Tzitzis. Ois Katan Hey, the Mechaber said, if you know for sure you said Krias Shema, and your suffix is only whether or not you said the brachas, Einan Chayzer Mavarech, says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Hey, T'su Haveli D'Rabbanan, because again, now all you have is a suffix D'Rabbanan. You know you covered all of the Chiyuvim Daraisa by saying all three parshas of Krias Shema. Question is, will you makayim the D'Rabbanans of the bracha? Some D'Rabbanan l'kula. V'im yodeya sha'amar emes v'yatziv. This is an interesting case. Let's say somebody knows for sure he said the bracha of emes v'yatziv through Tabarak Atah Hashem Gal Yisrael. Ve'ina zeichem kar Krias Shema, but he's not sure that he said Krias Shema. Das el Yerabah the Chayzer, that he should not go back and say Krias Shema again. V'gam rayom mila'el simin samachtalad. Sivdal v'ayin b'prima gadam. L'chayra, the raya over here is very simple. We said earlier that, let's say you said u'chesav tamal mezuzos peisecha v'sharecha, and you're not sure, did you just finish v'ahavta, or did you just finish v'haya im shamaya, and you're holding by l'man yirbu yimechem v'imei v'neichem. So we said, if you stop right over there and you have a suffix, so then you have to go back to v'haya im shamaya. But let's say you said, so you already started saying L'man Yirbu Yimechem. Now you stop and you say, wait a second. Was I up to the end of Ahayim Shamaya and I was supposed to say L'man Yirbu Yimechem? Or was I up to the end of the Ahavta and I wasn't supposed to say L'man Yirbu Yimechem? The halacha is we assume that you're at the end of Ahayim Shamaya, And the reason your lips started saying L'man Yirbu Yamechem is because your lips are following your hergel, the order in which you're used to davening. So too over here, says the Mishnah Berurah, if somebody knows for sure that he said Emes V'Yatziv, but he's not sure whether or not he said Krias Shema, we assume he said Krias Shema. Because otherwise, how did he end up saying Emes V'Yatziv? Okay, we're going to stop over here. Thank you for joining me for limud HaTorah. Because of limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael, the Marshal should send Yeshua's referrals, Parnassah, Shidduchim to all those in need. And we should be Zoichet to see the Bias Koel Tzedek, B'meher v'yameinu, Amen. Be well.